I'm going to defer to Councilman Javik. This was his ordinance, and I do support it 100%, but I don't want to steal his thunder.
Councilman Javik?
Yes, I introduced this ordinance. This is basically follow.
You wrote it?
No, I introduced the idea
Okay, thank you.
of putting this together.
Thank you.
And this will be implemented by the Board of Health. It's basically following the guidelines of the Cosmetology Board and Hairstyling in the state of New Jersey. Other municipalities have done this. It'll be another license on top of the license to make sure everything is followed according to the rules of the Cosmetology Board.
So that's,
In other words, to get our license, you'll
right,
have
so
to
it's
have...
licensing.
You'll
All
have
right.
to have exactly what they have. In other words, all your operators will have to be licensed.
And we don't have, currently they're not licensed?
I don't know that.
Why don't you know if you're writing this and you're presenting
No, no,
this?
I-
Council
you
President.
misunderstood.
Council President.
In
So
order to
seriously,
work
I'm
in a
not-
beauty salon or a nail salon or anything, they have to have a license, okay?
So they are licensed.
So someone has to come in and they have to check, okay? A state body. Now, with our license, it's going to be exactly the same. Somebody's going to come in and check the licensing of these salons and check to make sure all the operators are licensed, check the sanitation in the salon, check everything, and you'll have to have all these things in place in order to get our license also.
All right, so we have, we
So
see
it's
someone else
another
doing it.
license, but from the city.
From the city,
But
okay.
it duplicates exactly the rules that are already in place.
So why do we have that? Let me just ask a question.
Sure.
If we have a restaurant, we have a lot of restaurants in town, all right? And so if someone comes in, or who inspects them? Because I do know that I've heard about inspectors coming in and checking on restaurants. So what is that situation? Do you?
That's the Board of Health also, isn't it, Nancy?
So.
We have
it's-
Nancy here from
it's
the Board of
Linden-
Health if you'd like
So we
to.
have a state, or when they're inspecting a restaurant for, because I'm sure they have some sort of a license also for having the restaurant. Is it also at the city level that's coming in, since you talk about the Board of Health?
For
Or is there
restaurants?
for a restaurant?
For restaurants per se? Yes. Yes?
Yes. Is it also a
deferring
state?
it to Nancy because she's the Board of Health
Council President, if I may.
Yes, Ms. Antonelli.
I apologize for interrupting, just trying to move this along. So basically, the ordinance that's before you this evening, it's the city's attempt to essentially regulate and license beauty salons and barbershops and the like. You do have to have a license from the state, as the councilman correctly pointed out, but this just gives the city some better enforcement power, make sure that the people that are operating here are complying with the law. There are sometimes, as with ABC licenses, there's an overlap with state regulation as well as local regulation, so that's what we're doing here. When this issue came up with regard to whether or not people have proper licenses, et cetera, we had no enforcement mechanism to do that. The state could do that, but sometimes they inspect when they want to inspect. Sometimes they, do things at their convenience. This ordinance gives the city better enforcement power on a regular basis by requiring those businesses and those individuals to obtain a license from the city, and then they'll go through an inspection process. And in the event we get a complaint from a resident, we'll have the ability to determine whether or not they're still complying with the law. So it just gives the city another tool, if you will, to make sure these businesses are operating here properly.
Right, and do you not think that these salons and barbershops are going to think of this as another encumbrance on them? And also, I assume that with the license, that's going to be additional revenue or different additional cost to them, correct?
Yeah, actually, there is a licensing fee for that, so you are right. But again, I believe the ordinance stands for the greater good here. Obviously, anytime there's an attempt to license with a fee attached to it, someone's going to complain that they're paying an additional cost.
Yeah, I don't have qualms with that. But the other thing is, I know it's come up on the council. There was an issue, we have a lot of car lots or not restaurants, but, lots or auto sales, okay? And this was maybe some time ago where we were questioning, how much revenue is that bringing in? And then also, I think even when we were talking about expanding the revenue coming into the city, bringing in maybe higher quality establishments. And then someone brought, maybe from the dais had said, we're getting all these nail salons, this salons, that salons, whatever. So with this licensing, is this also going to help us maybe really put a check and balance on the types of businesses coming in?
Let Roshana answer. Ms. Cosby?
So, years ago, we had actually talked about a business registration, but then we didn't have the capability through the clerk's office.
And what would that do, the business
The
registration?
businesses would register with the city of Linden.
Right.
So that we would know who's in town and what the nature of their business was.
We don't have any sort of register like that currently?
This is unique insofar as, to Councilman Javik's point, this would make sure that the establishments are following the State Board of Cosmetology laws, rules, and regulations. So Councilman Javik and I are both licensed cosmetologists. And so for us, this is important so that we maintain the integrity of our industry. I'm a teacher of cosmetology also, so when you come into a place and you see people coming out or they're calling 911 because they got a service that was harmful to them
Hair got
physically.
fringed or frizzed?
No, not, I'm talking about like waxing services or like the barber cut you or, something like that. So basically, it's just, we're registering the business, that's the primary goal. But in that, it's gonna make sure that the people who are, Mr. Mack, in those salons are complying with the state board rules and regulations. So that they have to either be a student of cosmetology with a state board student certificate or be licensed by the state board of cosmetology.
Okay, one other question. For any establishment that's operating in Linden, is there some sort of department or an individual?
I'm sorry, that's not part of this ordinance.
What, okay,
You can go to the clerk's
all
office.
right. So even with this here, so even before having this ordinance, could someone from the city go into a barber shop or a beauty salon and check it out, to see that there's maybe no violations, no building violations, or,
Construction code can go in, I believe. Health
okay,
department can
or
go
even
in.
for cleanliness,
But-
health
right,
codes,
but
things like that?
Not,
So this is
in
just strictly
general.
following the cosmetology license there?
Yes.
right,
Correct.
rules and
Okay,
regulations for
interesting.
sanitation, infection control, and things like that, and licensure.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
May I, if you will, as being a associate with the barber shops, I respectfully submit the Internal General Office, they the ones handle that department. I would respectfully ask the mayor and the president of the city council and council people to please put this on the burner. And let's go back, because I spoke to the people, personally myself, today, from the front door of City Hall to the railroad tracks. And they have 100% agreed with the reading. I will ask them to please cancel this. Let's talk to the people. And let's talk, listen to what I said now, listen to me. Let's talk with the people before we decide what it was. They seem to be 110% in agreement with the ones I spoke with today. Be in agreement that this should be a situation where we have control. But we do not want control under high-perform manipulation, if you will, with all due respect. Let's do it in a manner that would be conducive to humanity, not on the terms of favoritism, because I think I used the wrong word, that favoritism. But the bottom line, according to the people, the barber shops, beauty salon, I think some of them is here, because I think, is Lady, you not?
Mr. Mack, please stick to the...
Well, the bottom line is I think you got the drift.
Thank you,
And I
sir.
ask you to count, table this, and let's go back to the caucus room, or go to the community and talk about it again.
Thank you, sir. Miss, before I call on you, Councilman Brown?
I just need clarification and confirm, Councilman Cosby, it wasn't the whole genesis of this is because there was a state law that was passed allowing, or am I confusing this with the other one?
Nope, this was in the works. Councilman Javik had been working on this for several
Well, I'm
months.
saying this is going to help prevent that the state is allowing people, I guess, to do this type of work at home, and one of the reasons why we're doing this, too, if I'm wrong, is to prevent work from being done at home by people who are unlicensed.
That's not my motivation. This is specifically about salons that are open to the general public and who present themselves and collect money from the public, and they need to be complying with the state
So
law.
this wouldn't affect people who are able to do work at home?
People are not allowed to do work at home.
With that current assembly bill?
No.
Okay.
Not on the state level, not unless it's a registered business with a separate door.
It has to be zoned for that.
Okay. Miss, can you come to the front?
Hi,
Thank
yes. My name is Courtney Williams. I'm a licensed cosmetologist and a cosmetology teacher. I've been in Linden all my life. I've been working starting at 14 years old. My question is, does this put a limitation on how many businesses actually open?
No.
Does it affect the businesses that are currently open now, or just forthgoing with the businesses that will possibly open?
Any business in Linden now who is listed as a salon would be subject to the fee annually and inspection.
Okay, the other thing is, I just found out about this today.
It was advertised. And now actually, it goes out on the city website after the introduction meeting. So it's been advertised for 30 days.
So what about the businesses that are open? Shouldn't, like, the people that work the hair salons and barbers and nail salons that are currently in business know about this without having to look on to the city website?
Unless we're advertising it someplace else. They would only know if they were involved, unfortunately.
Yeah, I found out about maybe an hour before this meeting. So, you know, my other partners in the salon don't know. They were unaware of, just like, you know, Mr. Mack said, I actually found out because he ran into my mom who was getting her nails done on Wood Avenue.
Okay.
But that's how I found out from Mr.
So,
Mack.
but Courtney, to your point, I get it, like, probably should do a better job, but in our defense, we only have to do so much advertising. This is important, and as a teacher, I mean, you and I were colleagues, so.
Right.
We teach people to do things the right way. And when we go into a salon, I can give you a personal experience. You have some people in there, they're not washing their hands before they do services. They're using the same combs and things like that. And so we want to just make sure that the service that's provided in our city is of a professional nature.
Okay.
And if we can get a couple of bucks off it, it won't hurt. So, I mean, you know, this was his baby, and I support it 100%.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Anyone else out there? May I have a motion, please?
Council President, I move to close the public hearing of ordinance number 6262. Move for approval and request a second.
Second?
Oh, apologies.
Mrs. Orman?
Yes.
Javik?
Yes?
Brown?
No.
Mohammed?
Yes.
Cosby?
Yes.
Roman?
Yes.
Strano?
Yes.
Yes.
Medina?
Yes.
Hickey?
Yes.
Mr. Alvarez?
Yes.